Someone else that might have a story.
Good evening once again. My name is Pete Buffalohead, and I am here to tell you some stories. These are all of my experiences. I've dealt with the paranormal, supernatural, spirits, poltergeist, you name it, I've pretty much done it. Bigfoots, dogmen, even got to see a skinwalker one time. The story I'm going to tell you right now, this took place back in about 2014, 2015. What I do, I don't tell a lot of people, and I don't let a lot of people know what I do. Some people ask for help, and I'll go help them out. But the tribal headquarters right up here on the road at the Tribal Affairs, the spook activity was getting extremely high. And what do I mean by getting high? The things that they were seeing, things that were happening in the offices. I even witnessed someone in the meeting chambers in the TA. And when I walked in there was nobody in there. But there was a man that I saw perfectly clear, a short man, about 5'6", had his hair combed to the side, but he was dressed like he was back in the 70s. But I walked in there was nobody in there. I talked to the county, they said they're the only ones in the building at the time, in the morning. So, like I said, the building was getting really spooky. And the council asked me to come in and take care of the building. And I said I would. And I got my little brother. My little brother's no longer with us anymore, but he was my right-hand man, and I was his right-hand man when it come to taking care of a building, smoking off homes and blessing and taking care of them. And we started off in the downstairs, in the kitchen. And it seemed normal. We were in there smoking it off. We opened that very back utility room in the kitchen, pumped some smoke up in there, and next thing you know, we saw an orb with our visible eyes about the size of a baseball or a softball actually come cruising out of there and went in between me and him, and we just followed it, and it went into the dining room. And so he's like, well, okay, well, we got one out the door. So we continued in the dining room, made a couple rounds in there, and before we went upstairs, we kind of looking around, and we saw a couple more orbs that was actually cutting through the smoke. You can actually see the orb moving through the smoke, which was something I've never seen before. So as we continued smoking everything off, we get up into accounting, and we're in there, and we smoked it off. Nothing happened, clean area. So my little brother went into the meeting chambers, the meeting room. I was still in there shutting everything down and locking everything back up in accounting. So he's in there, and next thing you know, I hear a woman's voice. It's an older woman, I'd probably give her in her 60s. But she kept saying, "What are you boys doing? What are you doing? You guys don't need to be doing that. Get out of here with that." And my little brother, Jason, was in the meeting room, and he goes, "Amanda, we're in here." And I come walking in the hallway, and then I looked in the meeting room chamber, and I said, "Jason, who are you talking to?" He goes, "Well, Amanda was calling me." I said, "No, she wasn't." And I said, "Look out in the truck. Amanda's still outside in the truck." So he looks outside, and he goes, "Who was that?" I said, "I don't know. It was an older female getting after us for coming in there and smoking the building off." So I just turned around and looked back in the hallway, or actually in our little meeting area that when you walk into the TA, and I just said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. We were told to smoke the building off. You guys are acting up in here, and that's what we're going to do. So you can leave on your own, or we're going to throw you out. Take your pick." And we continued through smoking off the building, and we got done, and we did some extra stuff to the building, and she just basically just took care of it. But seeing the orbs that were moving through the building and witnessing that, and hearing a woman, he recorded that. Every time we did a smoking off of a home, he always had his recorder going, and he still had that. And you can actually hear the woman getting after me and my little brother for smoking off the building. So that's one of my ghost stories, but like I said, that's kind of a nice one, I've ran across some ugly things I've had to do before, and, when you do this line of work, you can't be chicken about it. You got to basically stand your ground against whatever you're fighting. I'm like Mr. Hill. I've been all over the place, learned a lot of things, and I added that into a lot of my knowledge of what I know now. Talking about Native Americans, why are we so spiritualist? Why are we superstitious? There's reasons for everything that we do. You know, one of the rules, never whistle at nighttime. I know you guys have heard that, and I know you guys probably preach that to your kids and your grandkids. That is something that is very real. My grandson, he was probably about 5 years old, 6 years old, and he was trying to whistle around in the house, and I got after him. And I said, don't be doing that. Why? I said, you're going to call the spook in is what you're going to do. You don't do that. I'm telling you, next time you do it, I'm going to spank your butt. Well, next thing you know, he's in his room with his sister, and he whistles. And his sister got after him. You ain't supposed to be whistling. Next thing you know, in that room, in the corner, the far corner, you heard a whistle back. And next thing you know, I saw my grandson flying out of that room, run past the living room. He ran into the room with Grandma and dove on the bed. And Donina come walking out of there, and she was like, Grandpa, I said, I heard it. I said, all right. So I got up, got a little cedar going, smoked the whole house off, kicked the little ghost that was out of there, kicked him out, and I got after my grandson. I said, do you see why we do not whistle at night? You call things in. So, you know, those are some of the lessons that we've been taught growing up. You know, like Mr. Chris said, we're going to start turning it over to you guys. And I'd probably like to keep it at about 4 minutes if you guys are going to tell a story. You know, I know we have a lot of stories out here, and I hate to say they're not legends and they're not, you know, anything mythical. You know, these are real encounters. I know you guys have your share of stories. I've had mine. I've had plenty. I've done plenty of them. So if you guys would, who wants to volunteer first? Do we have any storytellers? Or do you want us to continue on telling our stories? Hey, someone said continue. All right. This happened back 2002. No, 2000. I was still in the Marine Corps. I was stationed at Camp Pendleton, California. And I was unfortunate enough to get guard duty. If you guys served in the military, you know guard duty. God, that sucked. But anyway, they woke me up. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I got geared up, got my M16. We marched on up there to the armory, loaded the magazine in, rounded a chamber, and they said, we'll be back in an hour, Buffalohead. I said, all right, no problem. And they left me up there. Okay, you're sitting outside of an armory. You got several tables out there where you clean your weapons. You take care of your weapons, you take all the funk out of them after shooting them and everything, and then you put them away nice and clean. This is about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was up there, I was just leaning on one of the tables, sitting, kicking back, and just like, hurry up, time, let's get over with. And then I heard something flapping, and I turned and looked to my left. There was an owl sitting on a post, looking at me, and it was a big owl. And I was like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So I picked a rock up and I threw it at the owl. And I was trying to aim for the owl's head, but next thing you know, the owl shifts his head sideways. The rock went past him. And I said, you're not supposed to be here, go on. The owl just sat there and looked at me, so I picked another rock up and I threw it at the owl again. He moved his head to the other side. The rock missed him. And I'm just like, what's going on here? There's something not right. And about that time, all the hairs on the back of my neck stood straight up. And it jumped up and it flew around the north side of our armory. I couldn't get over there. I ran to the fence and I saw it go behind by the well deck. That's where they bring the 5 tons out, change the oil in a big old pit. I turned around, Robin Hood it, slung my M16 over my back. I climbed the ladder and I was on top of the roof, scooting across the roof. And I get to the other side. I got my rifle up. I'm ready to shoot whatever is on the other side. And out of that well deck was the craziest thing I've ever seen in my dang life. I actually saw part of a neck and a set of shoulders come up. But what was so crazy about it was hairy, like fur. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm calling it in to my sergeant. I said, "Sergeant, I need you up here ASAP. Get up here now. Something weird is happening up here." And he goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I need you up here. Get the guys up here now." And he goes, "Buffalohead, you got 30 minutes. We can wait." And I'm like, "No, we can't. If not, I'm going to open fire on whatever the hell this is I'm looking at." And the next thing you know, he's just like, "Hold on, Buff." And I was like, "It's moving." He goes, "What is it?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "Keep an eye on it. Put your weapon on it, keep your eye on it." I said, all right. I let go with my radio. I'm sitting there gliding across the top of this roof, weapon down. I'm moving with it. This thing popped up out of that oil pit changing area. I was looking at, it sounds crazy, but it looked like a huge dog. And it was on its hind legs. And instead of walking the way a human walked, it shimmied back and forth as it's walking. And it's walking, and it stops. It turns and looks at me. And I'm sitting here debating, I know what you are, but if I shoot you, how is this going to be explained? And about that time, I can hear the react team from the guard shack. They're running. I mean, they are flat hauling up there. And I can hear it. I'm on top of the motor T now. I'm following it across the top. And it walks out into the open area, and it goes into the well deck up on top. I was with a light armored reconnaissance. All our light armored vehicles were up there. We had about 35 up there. And it ran into the area where all our vehicles were staged at. My sergeant gets up there. I'm climbing off the top of the roof and climbing down the ladder and getting up there. He goes, "Buff, what's going on?" I said, "Did you see that?" And he goes, "I saw something, but I don't know what that was." I said, "Did you see it?" And he goes, "Yes, I did." And I said, "Get the guys over there now. Make sure they got their chambers rounded." And the 6 guys went over there. These guys were going through the aisles, going through, looking top, bottom. It had enough time to get out of there. But what I was actually looking at was a skinwalker. You know, a lot of people say mythical. That is a mythical creature that does exist. I witnessed that. I seen that. Someone was practicing black magic in our area, and it was a Marine. And I did find out who it was. He kept his distance from me. But those are some of the encounters I've even had while I was in the Marine Corps. And I wasn't the only one that lost their bearing and lost their cool between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock up there at the armory. We had several people that lost their cool up there, and they couldn't describe what they were looking at. In the military, we refer to them as dark green Marines. That's a person other than white, brown, the African Americans. His name was Romeo. 2 nights later, he was screaming over the radio, asking for help. Literally screaming. The react team heads up there and they bring him back and switch out guards. This guy, it's dark, but he came back gray. It scared him that bad. Actually, he got a medical discharge after that incident of what he saw. And he kept describing it. And the psychiatrist said, "You're seeing things." He goes, "I know what I saw." But he ended up getting Section 8 out of the military, the Marine Corps, because of what he's seen that night up there. There was actually a lot of us that saw some things up there that weren't natural. So that's another one of my stories. But like I said, that happened to me in the Marine Corps. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Hill. Thank you.
Oh, let's